So do you want to show me
warning?
This is the warning. We're about to apply for a warrant to enter your home. Until last year, 80-year-old Verity had never seen a bailiff in her life. She's a polio and cancer survivor, and her post-polio syndrome means she's extra sensitive to the cold.
Then, when I looked down, that's when I was told I owed 6,000.
Last year, her bills from British Gas spun out of control, and so came that knock on the door.
8 o'clock in the morning, they're banging on my front door, so they got a rather unhelpful reception from me, and they went off.
You said that your projections going forward are £5,500 a year. How does that relate to your incomings?
That'll be over half my pension, so that means I won't be able to buy any clothes, any food. Well, food will have to be cut down drastically. I won't be able to buy a newspaper. Everything will be shut down.
Far, far away from Verity's cottage in Oxfordshire, Russia's war in Ukraine has cut gas supplies, allowing wholesale gas prices to skyrocket. Trillions have poured into the coffers of oil and gas producers, like Centrica, who today revealed they posted a profit of more than £3.3 billion last year. That's a year-on-year increase of more than 350%. Unusually, Centrica, as well as being a wholesale gas seller, owns a supplier too, British Gas, which sells energy to consumers like Verity. British Gas made £72 million in profit last year, and it's from this smaller pool of cash that Centrica is drawing to help vulnerable consumers, pledging 10%, just over £7 million. That £7 million is a fraction of the £550 million Centrica has just spent buying back more of its own shares, ironically 10% of them. This pushes up the share prices and gives shareholders and executives a windfall, just as consumers feel the pinch.
Centrica does supply to consumers, they set their prices and they should be able to reduce them. They should be able to cross-subsidise from the profit-making side of the business. If that's not allowed, they could be putting those things into other forms of support, household support for those families that we know are really struggling through the cost of living crisis.
The charity's scope is calling for a social tariff, discounted energy bills for disabled people as well as pensioners.
We are talking about, at scope, a population of 14 million disabled people. Probably about half of those are adults who might own a house and probably pay for an energy bill. So I would say it's unlikely that £7 million is going to do much on its own.
This month, the Chancellor increased windfall taxes on energy profits to 35%, extending them until 2028.
We have already taken big steps to increase tax on energy firms, and that's helping us fund measures on the cost of living, but of course we keep all these things under review.
The government's cap for consumers rises in April, meaning the average household bill will rise to £3,000 a year, a figure dwarfed by the £3.3 billion profit Centrica took home last year, alongside BP's £23 billion and Shell's £32 billion.
Hello, it's British Gas, your gas supplier. We're here with a court warrant.
Centrica's British Gas found itself in hot water this month after footage emerged in the Times of bailiffs forcing their way into people's homes to install pay-as-you-go meters. The company said it would stop it happening since, but the uncomfortable optics linger as their own balance is bolstered by the spoils of war.
Amelia Jane reporting. Well, we approached Centrica for an interview today, but we were told that no one was available. I am, however, joined now by the Labour MP Darren Jones, who chairs the Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Committee. Darren Jones, good to have you on the programme. Do you wish you were working for Centrica or one of its major shareholders?
Well, it sounds like it would be a good day for their bank balances, but not a good day for the vulnerable customers who are not able to pay their energy bills, who in the last few months have had forced entry into their homes, and of course for the people in Ukraine suffering from this war that's resulted in these excessive unexpected profits in the first place.
I mean, as Amelia pointed out in her report, Centrica is a weird company, isn't it? Because it does gas extraction and it also sells the stuff to us through British Gas. They say that they've only made £8 after tax from each consumer in excess profits, but of course they made a ton of money from getting this stuff out of the ground.
Yeah, profits are profits. And let's be clear, British Gas and other energy companies have also been given huge subsidy from us taxpayers. We've had to take on enormous amounts of national debt in order to cap the average price that we pay in our energy bills. What that means in practice is that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has given huge amounts of money to energy companies who have then made profits on their own gas extraction and power generation, are then claiming poverty, but actually giving money to their shareholders with excess money, buying back their own shares because they don't know what to do with it. That should be going to help their vulnerable customers, to write off the unpaid debts that poor people are unable to pay, and quite frankly, to go back to the Chancellor of the Exchequer via an effective windfall tax.
Right, so the solution that you're focusing on is to increase the windfall tax, because they're already paying, I mean, they said they'd be paying £1 billion over the next few years in windfall tax. You're saying that's not enough.
Well, how many billions have they had from us taxpayers in order to cap the price of the energy bill? I mean, part of that has to be recovered from the unexpected excess profits these companies are generating. That's the whole point of a windfall tax. And look, companies can either choose to act responsibly, morally and ethically in their own right, and reuse their profits to help vulnerable customers without the state getting involved, but they seem to be refusing to do so. And so surely the only thing that can be done is for ministers to legislate for an effective windfall tax.
There's another solution to this, of course, which is advocated by many people on the left of your party, which is to renationalize these companies. They are, essential to our, daily existence. They should not be in private hands. They should not be, subject to usual market rules. They should be run effectively by the government.
Well, the problem that the energy companies have is that since privatization, all of the different bits of the business have been split up. So the profitable bits of extracting gas and producing power for most businesses, other than Centrica in the way that we're talking about today, has been separated from the energy supply companies who we all get our bills from. All of them have been loss-making. And so actually to nationalize the energy suppliers at this stage wouldn't actually redistribute the profits that are being felt by the energy generators, which is Centrica, but also BP, Shell and others.
But that's what's happened in other countries in Europe, like France, for instance. They've renationalized the energy companies, and energy inflation in France is, I think, 6.2%, a lot lower than here.
Well, in France, the companies were already largely owned by the state. They just increased their shareholding because otherwise those energy companies would have gone bust. But look, I think the point of your question is legitimate, which is we've been given huge amounts of taxpayer subsidies to energy companies, which we've had to borrow as even more national debt on top of a very heavy debt burden after COVID and many, many years of economic failure by the Conservatives. And then what are we getting in return for that when companies are making enormous profits and not helping their own customers, but asking us in the Treasury to give them even more money to help those vulnerable customers? They should be using these profits to help their customers, to write off unpaid bills that poor people can't afford to pay for, and to give money back to the Treasury that it's already had as part of its contributions.
So Chris O'Shea, the chief executive of Centrica, didn't take a bonus last year. He's being a little bit more equivocal about whether he takes his £1.6 billion bonus this year. Should he not take it? What would you tell him to do?
Look, it's a personal decision for him. It's a decision for his board. I suspect that Mr. O'Shea will say the board gave it to him and so he took it. They might decide to mark it down a little bit. But to be honest, if I was running a business where it turned out that vulnerable customers had forced installation of prepayment meters, with my agents breaking into their homes, single mums with parents, disabled people, old people in tears, I would have deep questions about taking such a large bonus, any bonus at all, when my customers have been dealt with in that way.